Killer whales in captivity need companionship.
In July, a cell phone captured this hard-to-see video of Shouka lunging aggressively at a trainer.
She may have been acting out and saying, hey, I need attention, I need companionship.
Killer whales, majestic giants of the ocean, aren't meant for captivity. Yet Shouka, the orca, found herself confined far from her expansive oceanic home. Born in the relative comfort of Marineland in France, her life took a stark turn when she was relocated to an amusement park across the ocean. Alone and without companions, Shouka's early promise faded into a life marked by isolation and frustration. In 2012, during a routine performance, her deep-seated distress surfaced dramatically as she lashed out at her trainer, a moment that caught the world's attention and sparked widespread outrage. This is the tragic story of Shouka, tracing her journey from a cherished pod member to a solitary figure in a foreign land. Shouka was a special orca. She was born in 1993 at the Marineland of Antibes in France, which made her the very first orca to be born and survive in captivity there. Her mother's name was Sharkane, and she was caught by whale hunters off the coast of Iceland only a few years before Shouka's birth. Sharkane was reportedly doing all sorts of flips and spins in the water during labor. Shouka was lucky because she got to spend a good chunk of her early years with her mother, Sharkane. It's not always common for captive orcas to stay with their moms for so long, but Shouka got to enjoy 9 years with her. Most calves are separated from their mothers very early. Some even don't meet them. But for orcas, spending time with their families, or pods as they are called, is a crucial part of growing up and learning how to socialize with others of their kind. But Shouka wasn't alone in that tank with her mother. She had some other orca buddies to hang out with. There was Freya, another orca who was friends with Shouka's mom. Freya even had her own babies, Valentine, Inuk, and Vicky. Shouka and Freya's kids had a blast playing together, splashing around and having fun. Sharkane had more babies after Shouka came along. There was Valentine in 1996, Inuk in 1999, and Vicky in 2001. Shouka loved being a big sister to her younger siblings, always looking out for them and playing with them. Life at Marineland wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for Shouka though, despite the fact that she got to spend time with her mother. When she was just a baby, she didn't get enough food. She was the first orca calf born at Marineland, so the staff didn't really know how to feed her properly. This meant Shouka didn't get all the nutrients and calories that she needed to grow bigger, so she ended up being very small for her age. At the age of 9, she was the size she should have been at the age of 4 or 5. Shouka was a smart orca. She learned a lot from her mother and Freya about being an orca in captivity. She could have been a great mother herself one day, with all that knowledge that she had soaked up. But Marineland had other plans for her. Shouka the Orca embarked on a journey that took her far from her home in Marineland, France. In 2002, she boarded a plane bound for Six Flags in Ohio, the US. It was a big change for her, leaving behind her familiar surroundings and the people she grew up with. At Six Flags, they were hoping to find her a companion, a male orca named Kashakmek from Argentina, but things didn't quite work out as planned. Kashakmek never made it, and Shouka found herself alone. Loneliness became Shouka's constant struggle as she swam in solitary confinement at Six Flags, Ohio. For a social creature like an orca, especially Shouka, who grew up with a loving pod, being all by herself was incredibly tough. Imagine spending years without seeing a familiar face. It was devastating for her. In 2004, Shouka's journey took yet another turn as she moved to Six Flags in California. But even in this new environment, she remained isolated. There were no friends or family members to share her tank with. Then, after what must have felt like an eternity, Six Flags decided to bring in Merlin, a bottlenose dolphin, to keep Shouka company. But even this wasn't enough to truly ease her loneliness. Shouka and Merlin were kept separated most of the time, violating the rules meant to protect their well-being. Despite these challenges, Shouka persevered. She endured 10 long years of isolation, but finally, in 2012, her journey led her to SeaWorld in California. It was a new chapter for Shouka, a chance to start afresh in a different place. Throughout her travels and trials, Shouka remained resilient. She adapted to each new environment even when faced with the toughest of circumstances. Now at SeaWorld, Shouka has the opportunity to forge new connections and perhaps find the sense of belonging she had longed for. It was a chance for her to leave behind the loneliness of the past and embrace a brighter future, surrounded by friends and fellow marine creatures. But despite many hoping for her to fit in perfectly at SeaWorld, a decade of loneliness and isolation had taken their toll on Shouka, and she would seemingly never become the same orca she was in Marineland, France. Shouka's story is marked by moments of aggression that revealed the challenges she had faced in captivity. In 2012, during a public performance, she lashed out at her trainer, lunging forward multiple times even after the trainer was knocked backwards. This incident was captured on video and widely circulated, especially after the harrowing incident with Tilikum at SeaWorld. People were worried for both the orcas and the trainer's safety. Scientists and experts are weighed in on Shouka's behavior, suggesting that her prolonged periods of loneliness and solitary confinement may have contributed to her aggression. It's a sad reflection of the toll captivity can take on these highly social and intelligent animals. Following the incident, SeaWorld San Diego took custody of Shouka, where she now resides. After 10 years without any orca companionship, she has finally been paired with Corky, providing her with some much-needed social interaction. However, the effects of Shouka's isolation are still evident. Her teeth bear severe damage, likely caused by biting off pieces of concrete from a pool out of boredom and frustration. This behavior is a clear indication of the mental distress she has experienced in captivity. Despite efforts to address her needs, Shouka's situation remains concerning. She has been housed alone for far too long, in violation of the Animal Welfare Act. Public pressure is mounted on Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, where Shouka was previously held, to find a suitable companion for her. But the challenges don't end there. Finding a compatible companion for Shouka is complicated by factors such as ownership rights and the lack of available orcas. As a result, Shouka continues to suffer the consequences of captivity, highlighting the inherent problems with keeping orcas in confinement. Shouka's journey in captivity wasn't crowned with just one attack. She has displayed troubling behavior several times in the past, especially when it comes to aggression. From her early days at Marineland to her times at various facilities in the United States, she has exhibited behavior that indicate her frustration and discomfort. One incident that stands out is when Shouka hit a female trainer so hard that the trainer ended up in the ER with internal bleeding. This shows just how powerful and potentially dangerous Shouka's actions can be. Former orca trainer John Hargrove also experienced Shouka's aggression firsthand. During one performance, Shouka deliberately disobeyed a hand signal and instead drove into Hargrove's back, pushing him underwater against the tank's wall. John had even more trouble with her. Another time, she rolled him off her back and into the water before swimming at him with her mouth open. John was lucky to escape unharmed, but these incidents highlight the risk involved in working closely with captive orcas. In yet another frightening encounter, Shouka grabbed John by the wetsuit and attempted to pull him into the pool. Only his quick reflexes and the tight fit of his suit saved him from a potentially life-threatening situation. These aggressive acts are a clear indication of the frustration and stress that Shouka experiences in captivity. John Hargrove's journey with marine animals began at a young age, sparked by his fascination with killer whale shows at SeaWorld Orlando. Throughout his career, Hargrove became increasingly disillusioned with the practice of keeping killer whales in captivity. His experiences and observation led him to believe that these intelligent animals were not suited for life in captivity. This belief was further solidified after his resignation from SeaWorld in 2012. It was a final drop after many incidents that he and his colleagues experienced. Just 6 days after leaving SeaWorld, John was interviewed for the documentary Blackfish, where he shared his insights into the training of orcas and expressed his concerns about their welfare in captivity. This marked the beginning of his advocacy for the rights and well-being of captive orcas. In 2015, John furthered his advocacy through his memoir, Beneath the Surface. The book delves into his experiences with orcas at SeaWorld, shedding light on the challenges and ethical concerns surrounding their captivity. It became a New York Times bestseller, reaching number 18 on the nonfiction list. However, John faced backlash from SeaWorld, who criticized him after the publication. In recognition of his courage and conviction, PETA presented Hargrove with the Courage of Conviction Award for exposing SeaWorld's treatment of captive orcas. His memoir was optioned as a film, further amplifying his message and advocacy efforts. There was a petition of over 7,000 signatures to give Shouka a companion. Six Flags initially wanted to send her to Marineland in Canada because they also had a lone orca, but Marineland France pushed back against this because they still owned her. After some deliberation, she arrived at SeaWorld San Diego. At the time, 8 other orcas were in this park, and there was hope for Shouka to settle down. She was reluctant to swim into the pool with them at the beginning, but began interacting without issues. Later, she was introduced to older orcas and seemed to fit decently into the pod. Are we doing enough to help orcas in captivity? Can they ever be reintroduced into the wild? Should marine parks face more severe consequences? We have our thoughts, but maybe another story could give answers. Shown on screen.